We set sail at last from Charleston Harbor. Captain Butler was leading this adventure that we calculated between a few stops to arrive with enough provisions. We would be reaching the cold Antarctic waters in about 140 to 150 days at the most. As we left, we all had a mixture of excitement and panic from everything we had experienced in the previous days. We were also not quite sure why Butler had hidden himself in this way. Had we become the enemies of a force we were going to be able to actually face? Butler also mentioned another race. What had we really gotten ourselves into? The days went by and everything was going very well. We had plenty of provisions and the companions were encouraging each other. Beyond some sporadic storms, the ship withstood the winds very well. When crossing the equator, we made some stops and stocked up again on the advice of the captain, who told us that the trip was going to be longer than we expected in the case of being able to cross the South Pole. We were also able to bring some cases of bottles of alcohol. Although the heat of the tropic at that time did not let us think clearly, it was known that times of darkness and cold in the black waters of the South were approaching. The second night of leaving the last port straight to Antarctica, I was on deck looking at the horizon and thinking about this adventure. The memories came all together to my mind. Everything I left behind, and if this turning against someone powerful was really worth it. I had an inner fire of curiosity to know about this passage. If it was really possible to cross it, I wondered what would be behind. While all this was going through my mind, Butler approached. "Already cold, comrade? You can't imagine what awaits you then," he asked me. "So you've been there?" I asked again. "Where do you mean? In the southern waters?" "Yes, of course," Butler affirmed. "That story you were telling that night, was it about you?" "I was there, William. I saw that passage with my own eyes. That's why I'm wanted." All doubt left my mind. The captain then gave a clear version about his past voyage. The lights went on in me and illuminated all curiosity. I couldn't wait to fill him with questions, but he stopped me right there, almost as if reading my mind. Then he told me, "Don't worry, William, you will see it too. You will see what I saw with my eyes and you won't believe it either. And I'm not just talking about the passage, but I won't talk about it until we can get there." The captain closed the conversation at the best moment. I had as many questions as the reader will have at this moment, and I assure you that they will be answered in due time. The intrigue ate me inside, and my face was the same tone as the reddish sun that began to appear on the horizon. At 138 days we were in the icy waters, and the sudden difference was abysmal. The water was dark, and as dark as the waves that swung us from one side to the other. The storm that had been chasing us for 8 days was getting worse. The captain was calm, and that gave us some security. But every time a wave crashed against our boat, in our minds we could not remember the warm home we were leaving behind. But I was confident in this mission. I knew somehow that it was going to give us its fruit. We crossed a huge mountain that we had as a reference, where warm and cold winds intermingled even under the snow. As strange as the waters we were sailing, it is very difficult to describe this place. It is simply unique. It has a beauty that enamors, even being aware that a second is enough to end your life against the huge masses of ice floating around. We were now sailing parallel to a giant wall of ice that loomed. We calculated that it would be between 80 and 90 meters high. And in some places there were peaks of even more height, but it was impossible to see it. The sleet could be seen up to a certain height. What we noticed and called our attention, except the captain, who had already experienced it, is that reddish and yellow color that sometimes appears on the horizon, as if a ravenous fire of some forest was raging behind. Near this giant mountain, blocks of ice fell like absorbent cotton on a mattress of snow, forming a steep slope where the snow water melted and cascaded into the sea, an imposing image with this kind of reflection of fire behind. If this were portrayed in a painting, they would pay millions to have it. This view overwhelmed with a unique beauty and a sepulchral silence accompanying the lonely boat that the team decided to name The Secret. The weather was inhospitable. It did not give us any respite. The fight was daily against the waves and the wind, the danger of collision against the great masses of ice and the water that fell on us like an eternal cry from the sky. We decided then to approach again to the enormous mount. The strange heat emanating from the melting ice all around gave the strange appearance that it did not fit, that it should not be there, but it even seemed to generate a different climate. We decided with the captain to skirt it as much as possible and investigate thoroughly this strange portion in front of the giant ice barriers. Butler shouted my name and called me on deck. A passage opened up behind between the giant frozen walls. The happiness that enveloped us was unexplainable, but we knew that we would not be there for a long time. Butler did not hesitate for a second, and we were all stunned. The ship was heading that way. The captain seemed to know what he was doing and left the boat parallel to the promontory, and then a kind of current took us inside without even thinking twice. We were dragged by an enormous force. Fear paralyzed us. We brushed the edges of that wall several times. All this panic lasted 3 or 4 minutes, but inside us it seemed to be eternal. Suddenly, and once we were sailing on this current that was dragging us, calm seemed to invade our surroundings. The storm ceased, and although the cold was still lashing, it was no longer overwhelming. We were in an inexplicable ecstasy. This narrow passage was opening more and more and gave way to an open sea. My eyes did not lie, although I doubted them several times. The captain shouted, "We made it, we made it." And we all celebrated with surprise and amazement. We were in waters that only very few reached, or so we thought at that moment at least. The dark waters began to clear. The ice walls were still visible, but were being lost in the distance. The sun that contemplated our feet was falling on the horizon. It was time to boast. I gathered the team by decision of the captain, who called us all with some seriousness. He was going to make an important announcement. He began by saying that what he was going to comment was not about him, nor about the team, nor about the known Earth we were leaving behind. It was about the whole of humanity and its past.